need to keep the ball rolling on this, and whenever he gets through with that, we need to sit down and look at all of that and move forward with this justice center. I felt like we kind of put it on the back burner, talking about the jail, but we put money in the budget for this, we need to move forward with it. And that needs to be in motion. I'll make a motion to move forward with the justice center, after the, space analysis from the architect.
Okay, we have a motion to, move forward with the Justice Center.
I think that's what we were really waiting on this whole time, was that analysis or master plan, whatever you wanna be referring to, and he thought he would have that by the third week of this month, correct?
Yes.
You know, he's gotta have it also, so we've had that discussion, and I don't think it's not news that we need that space, we just didn't know what to put in it, honestly. So we can get some, maybe with his, results and the feedback he got from everybody else, maybe he'll have some plan for that.
In the last email that I got from him, he had said that he's put together the survey that's gonna go out to all the department heads, which I think is more master plan, related. That's what it's kind of sounded like, big scheme, what goes on beyond, the justice, or the Justice Center. I don't necessarily believe that he has considered the Justice Center as, a standalone in itself, kind of what we've talked about. I think I've been pretty clear in saying, hey, that's what we had laid out and identified those, but I'm just not sure that that's the way he's looking at it. So I'll try to get the feedback on that, but I think the point here is that, we can spend some money in a very judicious and wise manner, so that we're not catching any more world-class rats, in the JP office. And it also enhances our capabilities. I think everybody's acknowledged it, with our CPS court and our AG court operations. I think we are addressing about 4 to 5 good areas with this one facility, that's not a $4 or $5 or $6 million facility.
Well, I don't disagree with Commissioner Jones's motion, but I think it's, in my opinion, today, it's so broad that we don't really know what's been identified, we don't even know the location. And it's hard to move forward with what? We just don't know, we don't have that data yet.
Well, I agree that we don't need to stagnate on any of this. We need to keep everything moving, but again, you're right. We've got to see what his report is gonna say. Is that property over there gonna be fit for that building? I mean, there's a multitude of things, so if we can gather that information from him today, I think we can move forward a little bit easier. There's no doubt we need to do something with the JPs, and we need to ease the burden on some of this flow of CPS, AG court. That's why, I met with Judge Mabry and Judge Nelson before, and tried to move it over to the Commissioner's Court, to make it a little bit easier flow, and it has been. There's no doubt, but that's not a permanent solution either. And unfortunately, in Coryell County, that AG court and CPS court is a monster, and it continues to grow. It's just how it is.
We
So
definitely have to find somewhere for them to meet, like there's no post office parking.
no. And even when we slicked that parking lot up, Justin got a hold of that parking lot over there and slicked it all up. It was great. It added space, but you still have a problem with it. So there's a multitude of things, but I think if he'll get that report out and give us some more information on what he has so far as the architect, it'd be a lot easier decision to make.
that's not gonna be today. He's not gonna bring that back to you today.
No,
The survey that went out, so he still hasn't formulated his proposal to us, and we may not agree with his proposal, you know, honestly.
no, I agree. I mean, what I'm saying is that, he has not talked directly to department heads, from what I understand. He has sent his people through, or, you know, at least one of his workers through to, get the dimensions and measure off and see what the space requirements, or not the requirements, but the space utilization that we currently have. I know that they've collected that data.
I mean, I don't think anything is being stagnant, I think it's still moving, it's just that we're not seeing it, you know, it's something
So-
that he's doing and we're not talking about it every day, so. But I feel like that process is moving along.
He give us a schedule.
Yeah.
I thought
He did.
that in there, but I don't.
You know, so it was end of March, I think is what he projected, end of March, 1st of April, is what he projected as having his entire master plan. But I think concurrent with that, he would have some type of preliminary view of whether, you know, the Foxworth-Galbert site is usable or not.
We have a different location,
And he may have a different location.
that we already know. Do you think you could ask him if he could have that by, let's see, are we gonna meet, special meeting next week?
He has not mentioned that to me.
I thought I remembered him saying the third weekend of this month, he was gonna be close to having that, but, I mean, that's surpassed, I would say, so. Maybe if we could have a special meeting next Monday and ask him if he would be prepared to present something to us, some type of concept, maybe it's not on paper, but he could at least.
Just an update of where he is in
update
the
where he's
process.
at. Sure.
Okay.
That's not addressing his, Ron's motion, but.
There's the schedule right there. Look, they'll read that in March. February, March.
March 27th on my phone.
No, February 27th is schematic design approval, TCJS, review, construction manager at risk on board, and financial advisor on board. And then the 27th through March 19th, preliminary cost estimate and budget. April 13th, determine phase 2 approval. Now, all of that is, or as you know, when I looked at that, I think that was all predicated on the jail / law enforcement center. This doesn't,
What does it say up the top of the paper right there?
Coryell County Jail and Law Enforcement Center, preliminary
They
schedule.
don't say nothing about the justice
Doesn't
center.
say anything about the Justice Center.
Then I feel like we're dropping the ball on it, going by that right there. We may not be, I mean, I'm just. Anyway,
I think if he can get us some preliminary stuff, I mean, whatever he's got that he's working on, go ahead and share with us. I mean,
Right.
if he's not complete, that's fine.
We can set up.
I mean, it still gives you a ballpark idea of what he's looking at. I mean,
We may not agree with it.
Correct.
We may wanna redirect it.
I mean,
Right,
we have our visions of where it needs to go as well, or I do, so, you know.
We just need to set up a meeting with him here, Commissioner's Court.
See if we can do that on the.
See if you can sit up Monday if you can, you know. We can find
Yeah,
out
he's not gonna
another
be ready for it, that's okay. but
Yeah.
Well, if nothing else,
That
just
would be the second.
I'm not available. March 2nd, I won't be available.
But
No, all that week, I'll be on vacation.
Yes, could you get with him this afternoon, see what would be a good day for him to?
Yeah.
To meet, I mean,
All right, other than Commissioner Ashby, is everybody else available on March 2nd? I mean, I'm not trying to cut you out, Commissioner, but I've gotta find out, you know, where can we get the most of us together, cause
Yeah, I understand.
the 3rd, 4th, and the 5th of next week, I've got court, I've got a couple other things tied up on those days, and then now on the 6th, I'm good there.
How about the next commissioner's forum on the 9th?
You might need that much time anyway,
visit with him, find out.
Yeah.
Visit with him, find
Yeah,
out.
that's all you can do,
Okay.
really.
Okay, we still have a motion on the floor, to, proceed with the, Justice Center. I don't think any of this scheduling, would conflict with the motion that, Commissioner Jones is making. It just reemphasizes that this is a project that we need to move forward on with whatever, that Justice Center is going to entail.
I just think we need a little bit more information from the architect first. And I agree, we need to keep the ball moving, but I just think we need a little bit more detail from him first, you know. What his plan is.
Is there going to be a second to that motion? Hearing none, that motion dies due to lack of second.
Judge, may I comment on that?
Yes.
So, I think that's something maybe we can put back on the agenda as it's worded, once we get that information.
No doubt.
No, we'll get it back on there. Okay, all right, moving on, item number 13, pay bills. We have bills presented in the amount of $981,327.94.
motion to approve, Judge.
Got a motion to approve from Commissioner Jones, second from Commissioner Matthews. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Reports, Commissioner Matthews.
All right, as of, last week, we got a record number of kids enrolled in 4-H of 400, which is great. That's a report from Becky's office last week. Voter turnout was pretty good. So that's great. The girls' basketball team, Gatesville's girls' basketball team is, they're doing good. They're in the playoffs, running hard. So they play Rusk on Tuesday this week. I think they're playing Centerville, I believe. Anyway, Mackenzie Moreland represented Coryell County very, very well in San Antonio Reserve for
Grand champion,
Grand.
mom and female.
yeah. So she did very good down there, and then we've had a number of other kids that are participating at all the major stock shows, so it's, Coryell County's been very well represented this year.
Jordy Edens won the breakaway roping, got $10,000 scholarship, and,
I didn't see that one.
Jeff Pruitt's boy did good at the shooting sports deal. They won some awards. Won several awards. Livestock judging team got 3rd overall yesterday. Kinsey Gardner was 8th by individual.
Well, your boys done good there, well, they won a 3rd and a.
Yeah, in the reserve division in the Brangus show last week. Well, week before last now.
So we've got some good representation going on from Coryell County, no doubt. And that's all I got.
Very good. Commissioner Moore? Commissioner Ashley?
Commissioner school, we went to commissioner school week before last, Kyle and I are learned up for the year. Thought we missed Don didn't get to go.
Now I missed y'all too.
Everybody asked about it, every single person asked, where the heck is Don and his wife? We had a good time, we learned a lot, I'm sure you read it in the newspaper. I just wanna let you guys know, we just mentioned a minute ago, I'm gonna be on the cruise from the 29th to the 7th.
Coronavirus gonna be on there?
I hope not. Yeah, but no, we're leaving, we won't be here this week, but if you happen to have a court, take notes for me. And I'll be back on the 9th for Commissioner's Court. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. All right, first of all, I want to welcome back Mrs. Simpson from her hip surgery, and Mr. Richard Smith, our VSO, from his knee replacement surgery. They're both back in the saddle in limited capacities, but they're both doing well, and they're getting around. As always, we do appreciate Ms. Newton covering for Ms. Simpson in her absence. Heck of a job. Thank you, Jennifer. Election update, Commissioner Matthews touched on a little bit. Our totals through last Friday, 2,512 total votes cast. That breaks down to 491 mail-in votes and 2,021 that have done early voting in person, either in Coppers Cove or Gatesville. Excuse me, I didn't do any comparative analysis to determine how many more people are coming out to vote in Coppers Cove, but I think we're getting at least a little bit better turnout than what we've experienced in the past. Again,
25%, Justin said, 25% above 16.
Okay. So, I mean, whether that's due to the location or whatever, I just appreciate what Mr. Carruthers and the election crew has done. They put a lot of time and effort in trying to publicize, get the word out, and teach people. And with that, other than one individual that I know of, to a T, we've almost had are all positive feedback from the voting systems. People have very positive responses to the paper balloting. We did have one individual over in Coppers Cove that had some problems scanning their ballot after it had been printed. So they tore that ballot up. That individual reprinted their ballot and they scanned it. So other than that, that's the only incident that I can legitimately confirm that it did not operate and function just as advertised. So kudos to the commissioners for a wise choice in the voting equipment. In our last meeting, we voted to retain Michael Morrison for our precinct redistricting. I reached out, talked to him. He has sent a preliminary agreement over. I'm going to meet with him on March 3rd. I'll pass that along to Mr. Belt as well. There's a couple questions, and there's the potential that we may get that price cheaper than what we had initially reviewed. But either way, he is locked in that he'll charge us no more than the $22,000 that he originally stipulated. So I will have, once we get that final workout on that contract with him, I'll have that for the Commissioners Court approval. Today is the last day for the construction manager at risk RFQ that went out. As of Friday, we had only had 2 companies that responded. I'm anticipating that FedEx and UPS is beating down the door over at the Main Street Annex right now and delivering, additional. But as I briefly mentioned, Mr. Helpfinger will be here this afternoon, and we're gonna break those packets down. And I'll group those together for you so that every commissioner will have a copy of those, and we can move forward with those. TAC is having an interviewing, hiring, and firing workshop for all of our department heads and elected officials. They'll be conducting that in the Commissioner's Courtroom on March 24th. It's just an update to some of the Department of Labor standards in that process, and it's a good opportunity for our department heads and elected officials to get some information, best practices as they move forward with hiring.
You know,
The time on that is 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Okay,
George, will you be posting one again for the March 3rd meeting?
Absolutely will. Absolutely will.
You don't know, that'd be great.
We'll do that. Okay, that's all I've got. Does anybody have anything for me?
You're doing that in the conference room?
Conference room? Conference room. Anything else? All right, we stand adjourned. Thank you.